we go. There we go. Good morning. It is Friday.
Oh, I am so glad it's Friday. Thank
Too.
goodness it's Friday.
Yay.
Yay.
Welcome to the Friday Grief Chat. I'm Jill.
I'm Deb, and here we are again. In June, it will be 4 full years
Yes,
that we have been doing this. And wow,
long time.
good for us. And we know our listening audience appreciates this
Yes,
because
we do, because we hear about it afterwards.
yeah, we do. And we still are with our original intent of talking about all those things that you might only talk in a private therapy session, but Jill and I say it out loud. And here we are talking about death and that it's okay to laugh at funerals.
Yes, it is. And it's
Yes.
okay to do death your way. And it's okay to do grief your way. I was in a conversation with somebody, like a contract organization that we use at Central Counseling for folks to find us. And she saw my sign that's behind me that says, "Your grief, your way, your rules." Remember that?
Yes.
Nobody notices that. And she's like, "Oh, I love that." I'm like, "You're a
Yep.
social worker, aren't you?"
Yes.
Yes, and I did hospice, Jill. And so we talked about death because those are our people. But
Those are
there's
our
lots
people.
of other people who want to hear about it, want to talk about it. I get to talk to judges next week, the California State Judges Association, all
Good
about
for
grief.
you.
They tracked me down and said, "Will you come talk about grief and loss?"
Oh,
And I said,
yes.
"What about it?" And they said, "Well, our judges face it on the bench and they have it at home, and some of them are retirement age and they're facing grief and loss of their own and in their lives." And
Yeah.
so in an hour and 15 minutes, I'm going to talk all about grief, loss, how to do it, how to manage it, how to help the people in front of you from the bench, and how to help yourself at home. That should be no big deal.
Not at all. And for you, actually, you can do this. I've seen you in action.
There you go. We're going to do the brain, the breath, and the belly laugh combined with intimacy
Yes.
loss, combined with humor and loss, combined with all the things in an hour and 15 minutes. And the day before, I'm doing intimacy loss at the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists in LA. So I'm going to be on the road.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I really mean that. And
go team.
Go, Jill. You can do this. And we'll support you. And are you going to be around next Friday?
You know what? I was going to try to be, but I got bumped to the 1 o'clock hour and I have to be at LAX. And for those who are not familiar with LAX,
good luck.
Yeah, I'm leaving really early in the morning because that's a total nightmare.
Oh, not a problem. I will cover for you next Friday.
Because we can do that after 4 years. 4 years ago, we would have been panicking about this and like, how do
we would have, but then like
anymore.
I always say, it's okay. I'll just make shit up.
Right.
Yeah.
We can talk about grief, no problem.
Oh my gosh. We are funny.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So my daughter's in Kansas and they're expecting tornadoes today. So for those the rest of you who are in Kansas, please don't fly away.
No. You know, it's I just heard a little pitter patter of rain, but like I said, I can really feel the front, you know, in my sinuses. They're like going, warning, warning, warning.
I usually feel it in my hands.
Do you really?
Neck and my feet.
Yeah.
Where it happens.
Wow. It's almost like we're all Bullwinkle moose. And you can always tell when, what was it, his left corn or his corns in his feet would hurt or something like that. Weird.
Yep.
So today we were actually going to talk a little bit more about the movie that we were put on. If you could put the link into,
I will do that.
Yeah. You know, this movie, The Last Ecstatic Days, that I was on a panel with, and we like about 10, 15 of us watched it together. And then we were asked questions like, what to you is a good death? What is this? What is that? And if it's okay, I'll talk a
Yes,
little
please
bit about.
do.
So this person, I think his name was Evans was his last name. He was a yoga instructor. Don't remember his first name. Maybe it was Nick.
I
And
think so.
she'll find that out in just
I'm
a
putting
second.
it all up. Just keep
Yeah,
talking,
yeah.
Deb.
So he was this healthy, incredible yoga instructor because they showed how, and really tall, really, really tall. And he he was close to what I like to call a non-bio family around him. And he got diagnosed with glioblastoma, which is a very horrible brain cancer. And
Ethan.
say Ethan, that's right.
Ethan.
Ethan, uh, what was his last name? Ethan, doesn't matter. So Ethan was diagnosed with this, and on TikTok or Instagram or something, he became known as uh, the ecstatic
Ethan Sisler.
Ethan Sisler became known. He would be dying, being empowered, something else, and ecstatic. And ecstatic. And he really allowed himself and filmed himself having moments of when you're not up as well as when you're up. And he talked, he said, I'm ecstatic. And he really wanted to be as conscious as he could to the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And with the help of a really great hospice team, and he got to have, for some reason, I really thought his parents were divorced or separated, but they came together for him at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed the various states of dying and on medication and off medication. Medication meaning medicate the pain and make things easier, but he didn't want to have too much because he really wanted to be really conscious while he was alive and interact with people, having as many conscious and conscientious moments
Mm-hmm.
while he was alive. And a lot of people are like that. So if they say, I don't want drugs, do what they want. They know their own pain level. And those that actually want them, give it to them. And so
Mm-hmm.
he didn't only just take like Dilaudid or Demerol, depending on what they're giving these days, and morphine. I think he had edibles also, and he it was amazing how he would talk about what was going on, especially, and this was even for me a little unnerving. And
Mm-hmm.
those that have watched people die and stop eating, there's all these different changes that happen in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it was day 2, no food, or day 10, no food, a lot of different changes, not just weight loss. The body has this when you start starving, and maybe you've heard this before, you actually stop eating.
Yes.
I mean, stop being hungry.
Yeah, the hunger goes away.
The hunger goes away.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if he had sips of water, but I know they wiped his mouth out. And maybe our listening audience has seen that or done that for somebody else.
And there's lots of
It's
different ways to do that. My first wife, when my second wife, when she died, she went more than 30 days
without
without food.
without
Hmm.
food. Was she
Without
drinking it all?
fluid. Sh- She really didn't. We had IVs, but they weren't typical IVs. If you're imagining a bag, it was a cassette. It was highly concentrated pain meds, and there wasn't enough fluid there to be life sustaining. So
Right,
she wasn't
right.
hungry. At one point, one day, she said, "I'd like a shake," and she had maybe 3 sips of a shake, and that was it.
Hmm.
But no, she didn't want anything.
You know, what we used to do for Daryl's mom while she was not taking any food, sometimes, and this is sort of interesting, the sense of smell is one of the last to go if they had a sense of smell before. Some
Right.
people don't smell now, so they're not going to smell later. So they had we put bacon under her nose. We
Hmm.
always loved that smell of bacon. And I hope people do that for me. Coffee and bacon. You just do
We
that for me, and I'll be going.
we
Mhm.
brought in Christmas screens early.
Yes.
Casper died in early December, but she loved Christmas, so we
Hmm.
brought in Christmas screens, and then we brought in flowers from Hawaii. Someone went down to the floral place near LA and picked
Yes.
up wholesale bunches of flowers, and
Oh,
because she
that's
loved
beautiful.
those.
That's
And
beautiful.
she had an altered sense of smell because of dementia,
Yeah.
but she could identify those.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I speaking of dementia, I just started the reruns of. There's a TV show called 911.
Hmm.
And in the very beginning, there's a character named Abby who answers the 911 calls, and she's taking care of her mom, whose dementia is getting worse and worse, or her Alzheimer's, whatever. And they, she says, I don't remember wearing cologne. I don't remember any of this. But then her daughter sprayed a little and let her smell it. And the mom just went, yeah.
Hmm.
Mm. So smells are very important. I noticed Ethan when he was, it's Ethan, right? The
Right,
first,
Ethan's sister.
yes, they lit incense. They had all different types of. Now I'm going to use this word healer, but healer doesn't always mean they get to be alive.
No.
That you're going to heal them from whatever. And just like prayer, people say, well, we're going to pray for a miracle. I
Maybe a
I
different miracle, folks.
I just want to say maybe the miracle is that person has more peace than
Yeah.
any kind of suffering
Hmm.
while they're doing it. So
Yeah.
anyway, during those, I think it was like 16 days or something, they labeled them on the screen how many days without food. And he had people bringing flowers. They cleaned him every day
Hmm.
very well. He wore his t-shirts that he had made. The
Because he was
last
an artist.
he was
Hmm.
he very creative, and having watching someone's creativity be put to the test.
Hmm.
Like I have a pretty, unless something goes really kablooey with my brain, I will probably be saying silly shit to the day I actually die. And, that is something that where my creativity lies.
Yes.
So,
Linda
did
was
you
cracking jokes the morning she died.
see?
7:30 in the morning, she was telling us jokes and movie trivia, and at noon, she died. And she actually died on the same day he did, but years apart.
Wow.
April 2nd, Good Friday, was the same for both of them, just
Yes.
11 years apart. Mm-hmm.
And as I know you read a lot about this, Jill,
Mm-hmm.
what did you think, or what else can you fill in some of my gaps since I last watched it?
You know what I liked was the because I'm boots on the ground. I really am.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk about how death occurs, and we need to make it something approachable so that each of us can have a plan
Mm-hmm.
rather than having, especially with an illness, doing that whole head in the ground and not make a plan. And there was a plan, and there were people, and people not afraid of death and dying, and not afraid of allowing someone to have his death his way.
Mm-hmm.
They brought him home to a private home in Asheville so that he could have beauty around him.
Oh,
And
wasn't that
you don't
gorgeous?
have to be up in the mountains. That would be ideal, of course, but some people actually, you can't go to the mountains because you can't breathe. But you can have beauty around you just by having, some pretty flowers in a room, or the Christmas tree, or the twinkle lights, or when Linda was dying, we put her hospital bed in our front window, which looked out over our rose garden.
Yeah.
And, she was surrounded by that kind of beauty, and
Mm-hmm.
by pictures on the wall that brought back happy memories,
Mm-hmm.
and by music, which is something he responded to. Um, there's lots of different ways to
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with an aesthetic that's comforting to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be something people talk about.
I know.
And we should also be comfortable talking about, at end of life, our bodies really don't want nutrition. And when we try to force it, it actually makes us worse and causes a far more traumatic death.
Yeah.
And that's a hard bump for people who don't do death and dying on the regular. And so you need to be aware of it and able to talk about it. It's hard to watch someone not eating. It really is. But if you know it's their choice, then you're
Mm-hmm.
honoring them and who they are, and your commitment to them, and your commitment to their end of life. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really important. And we did that with Casper. You catch crap when you're not giving someone artificial nutrition and hydration. And so I posted the pulse, the physician's order regarding life sustaining treatment,
Mm-hmm.
on the wall behind her bed. She didn't see it, right? She knew
Mm-hmm.
I'd done it. She forgot it, I'm sure, by the end. But I did it so that everyone else would see that was her signature.
That's
And
right.
she
Yeah.
said, I don't want this. And I'm honoring that. I'm not going to honor your need to push fluid. I'm going to honor her desire not to choke.
You know, my mom and, of course, my dad, I mean, he was 38. Nobody talks about that. Or he was 39, whatever, when he died. And
Yeah.
it was very sudden. My mom's was sudden. However, she and I had had one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about this before. The conversation about how she would like to do death was this. She said, Debbie, I want, because she was talking about a friend, which this is usually happens, about a
Mm-hmm.
friend who had cancer. She goes, I want a Kevorkian milkshake. And I said, Mom, technically that, and at the time, illegal all over.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I know you, Debbie. You can talk a doctor into anything, which really was a great compliment coming from my mom. And then I said, "What flavor?" And she said, "Chocolate, of course." And that is the only time, which in that moment, I realized my mom is saying, "I don't want to suffer. I don't want to be here forever. Just get it over with."
Mm-hmm.
And so when presented, and I said, "I'll tell mom she's dying and I'll tell her her options." And I did. And I knew with the drugs in hospice that they can give to alleviate suffering. And that was my main thing, because when she's in the hospital, they'll never give you enough of the morphine till you're on hospice, because
Mm-hmm.
they want to keep you conscious, you know. I think today, 30 years later, it's a little bit different.
Yes, it is.
And so they can be a little more humane, but not
Mm-hmm.
all hospitals in all places.
Right.
So, in any case, my brother was disappointed that I wanted to stick her on hospice. And I go, "This is the conversation I had." Maybe I didn't tell him about that till more recently, actually. And, you know, uh, the bottom line is, how can you alleviate suffering?
How do you make someone comfortable? How do you give them the gift of a good death? Which
Yes,
is what Ethan had in this movie.
he did.
And it is hard to watch if it is not something you're accustomed to, but it should be something we're accustomed to because it's the reality of end of life. And you only get out of this world by dying.
And
Right? That's just all there is to it. You one way
yes.
or the other, we are all going to exit this world.
And they said that a bunch of times, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really loved watching his face when either he got more medicine, or the healer was there, or he
Mm-hmm.
was talking with his mom, or however they were doing it. And his mom's reactions were so, I think, spot on for a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And, she had a bit of an argument with him in the beginning, and that was also on camera. And he said, "No, this is what I'm doing. And if you don't like it, I'm okay with you leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Either support me or please leave, to not impede my death."
I like this one so much better than there was a PBS special or maybe HBO. It was somebody did a special of just recently about palliative care and hospice
Mhm.
and how to talk about it. And truly, the whole video was more about how to sneak hospice in, how to sneak in palliative care, how to sneak in a conversation. And most of the conversations were so uncomfortable for both doctor and family and patient that it was, well, if we can't find a way to get you better. And I watch these people with glioblastoma, end stage lung cancer, end stage emphysema. There's no
Exactly.
way you're not going to end up with this being terminal really quick.
Mhm.
And the hospital staff knew it. They filmed them in the hallway saying, "Say palliative, at least we'll get someone in there.
Yeah.
It's
I
going to
mean,
be hospice, but say palliative. Don't tell them death because they don't want to hear it." That's just not fair.
no. And
And it's
people,
2024. We shouldn't be doing it still.
and we are
Yeah.
every step of the way to, uh,
And I work at the free clinic that we have every other week. We take our social work and our therapy staff there, and they do mental health support. But I hang out with the med students, And some of them are pre-med and they're bachelors, and some of them are actually in med school. They're nursing students from our local nursing school. There are professors who have been in these professions for decades. I'll say, how many of you are going to go do hospice? We need hospice people. We need people who can talk about, who can tell someone bad news, air quotes, and help them get through planning and make plans. And we need to have those things in place. We need people who can talk about this. And they all back up, physically back up.
They do.
They do. Physically back up. Like, oh, she's doing it again. Right? But we got to talk about it.
You know, I was with some two other really great friends yesterday, and I was talking about on our trip when we got to the airport the next day after we didn't land in Milan, and the representatives, there is a common physical reaction when you have to deliver bad news. Bad news means you're not getting what you want and there's nothing we can do about it. My eye doctor did it this way. My regular doctor does it this way. Everybody does it. So they're going to give us the bad news that we don't have a plane for you at 3:00. Okay. So inevitably, it doesn't matter what kind of bad news, like even a waitress, when she says, oh, we're all out of, and you went to a
don't have any more gluten-free bread.
Oh, yeah. That is the main one. And I throw I'm more sad about that than I was about the plane not coming. Right. Anyway, the woman, everybody does it. It goes like this. We don't have any more gluten-free bread. I'm sorry.
And they get that look.
Or that look like there's nothing I can do about it. And then they like go. So it's like this. Take a breath, stand tall, say what you have to say that's going to be disappointing, like there's nothing else we can do, or there's no gluten-free bread. And it looks like I'm putting them equal, but I don't mean to say one is,
it's a disappointment or a loss is what it is.
It's a disappointment. And so in this case, it was, the plane will not be coming at 3 because blah, blah, blah. So they sometimes put their hands together, hold it like this. You have seen it in so many doctor shows. It's the same thing. Like,
they do it on Grey's Anatomy. Those staff know how to do that because they've had bad news too.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? They did not show that with the doctor here telling him this is what you have. I mean, another part of the movie, he goes, oh, I want to feel this, because he had to have because the tumor was growing. So he had to have the bone taken out so that it could stretch somewhat as it's growing. And they had to shave his head and all these things. And it was raw, because this is what, and just to show you, and I'm sort of like this, being a health professional. On 911, they were showing the episode where Chimney gets in a car wreck and the rod goes through his head. And he goes, I can't move my... Oh, you don't watch those shows? Okay. Well, this part I can talk about because I'm like this. Show me what's going on. I want to know. And so they realize Chimney is a medic. So he wants to know what this looks like. And they show him what it looks like. They reverse the camera and they showed him. He goes, now, because it's TV, they didn't say it, but mostly he would have said, oh, shit.
Right.
I probably would have said that. That's common thing to let out tension.
Mhm.
And that's what was also in here. Oh, wow. The Ethan was feeling his his ball impression, and then when it was
Mhm.
sticking out and everything. That's what people who are having a conscious death want.
Right.
Even my mother, who hates all things medical, she said, "Where is it in my body?" And I said, "Where do you hurt?" And she said, "Da da 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 da." And I said, "It is in all those places. That's where it
Mhm.
metastasized." So
Mhm.
I find it, there's the same way people don't like to see cuddly lions chewing on an antelope,
Right.
taking one down, and that is natural for
Change that
them to do
channel.
that. They change the channel because it's like, I can't watch that. That's, I don't, however you need to get accustomed to. I mean, seeing a baby born is really ugly. I mean,
Yes.
there is cheesy, goopy red
You know
stuff
what? If
all
you
over.
watch the midwife show, every single child they show that cord. I'm like, I don't want to see any more cords. I'm done. I've watched
Yes,
12 seasons. I don't want to see it. I know the reality,
I
right?
know. It's. I mean, I laugh, but dying is, in a lot of ways, very similar to birthing.
Hmm. There's
Both,
messy
there's a
parts.
transition part where
Hmm.
you could look at the mother's face and go, "She's here, but she's not." That's because a
Hmm.
space alien is now coming through your
Hmm.
legs. You are birthing a bowling ball.
Right.
And that, I want to close my legs even as I say that, because that hurts. But, my daughter says, "Yes, I know, Mom. I was the best dump you ever took." And I said, "Yes, you are right. When they said push, I thought my lips were going to fly off my face."
There you go.
And, but the rawness of that is the same when you're dying.
Hmm.
And I wish people could understand that a little bit more and not be frightened. I
And would be prepared for all kinds of deaths because there's the one where you go running into the ER because they've called you. There's the one where you walk in and dad died in his easy chair overnight. There's the one
Right.
where you've sat up all night for and all day for days. There's so many different ways, and if we could talk about it more, which is why we started this, so that people can be prepared and can be thinking about those things and
Mhm.
not be approaching them with fear, but with at some point this is going to happen in some way for everyone I love and for myself, and we need to be prepared for it, and we need to have a plan. And for those of us left behind, we need to be able to talk about it and share those experiences so they don't stick in our head unexpressed, where we have to hang on to it instead of letting it out and putting it away and being done.
And when someone dies from a mental health disease,
Mhm.
talking about it as a mental health disease, we die of cardiac problems, we die of endocrine problems, we die from cancer, and we also die of mental health disease.
Yes, we
And
do.
and
And we need to be able to openly talk about it so that if possible we prevent those and make life more bearable, and if we can't, to support the survivors without blame.
You know,
And do some postvention so that that doesn't become their future as well.
that's right. That's, because if you can't see it, sometimes people think it doesn't exist. I mean, I'm all
Right.
for denial too. So denial keeps me like, no, I didn't have 12 pieces of chocolate. Yes, you did. No, 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 it wasn't that many. 3 at most.
3 larger pieces.
Hey,
We'll assimilate
yeah.
them to our reality, right?
Yeah.
All right. So it is past our time. Deb will be here next week. I will be on my way to Los Angeles International Airport for a meeting to present. And then we'll be recollecting ourselves the following week.
We will.
All right.
All
Great.
right. The name of the show, and Jill put it in the comments,
Mhm.
is uh the Last Ecstatic Dance
I
or
put
something.
the Last Ecstatic Days. I put it in. I put the link
Yes.
for the movie itself in, and
Yeah.
there's also some chat in there, and it includes information about Ethan Sisser and his art gallery. Um, and it's you can find it. Steve, thanks for being here. He says the educational process is evolutionary, and through shows and broadcasts like ours, we can only then can people understand what involvement with the dying process is, and that is
Yes.
why we are here. All
Thank
right,
you.
everybody. Have a good weekend. For those of you in the path of the storms this weekend, please be
Yes.
safe.
All
Chloe,
right.
be careful
And
in Kansas City.
yeah, everybody be well and happy Passover to those that celebrate.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.